So let's get started, shall we? Okay, so we want to make some money, and it's a little bit hard right now. The easiest way to get things going is to use Shopify, we all know. And number two, we've got Big Commerce. We've got some other cool stuff out there. But there's this little guy on the side that's slowly coming up, and he has packed one hell of a power punch, and he's called NOPCOMMERCE. And I'm going to show you really quickly how to get up and running smoothly, easily. Now let's start making some money. Okay, so we are looking at another one of my custom code apps. We do this a lot. When you need custom code apps, give us a ring. I can slap something together for you and get it going. All right, so this is called NOP Studio. And we're going to, as usual, when I want to go fast and when I want to get it done quickly, I do what I do best and use Azure. So let's open up a browser. And let's just go on over to Azure. Okay, you should have an Azure account. If you don't, go and get one. If you don't, you will regret it. It's easy, it's fast, it's simple, and if you get stuck, hit me up on Facebook. I will help you out. Okay, I will create a new resource, and I'm going to look for NOPCOMMERCE. Please pardon I'm working with a really small resolution here because I want to make it simple for you guys looking on a cell phone. NOPCOMMERCE. Create. All right, I'm going to call this super simple. Hey, that's kind of cool. All right, I'm going to create a new resource group, which is also called super simple. And if you don't know what a resource group is, it's like a box, it's a bag where you put stuff inside of it, and then Microsoft helps calculate how much you're spending. And I'm going to create a new one specifically for this example or this series of examples. And I'm just going to call it super simple because I want to keep it simple. And next, I'm going to choose an app plan. Now I can use a new one or I can create a new one. Just think of it as you're using Microsoft's big, huge computer. And inside of a big, huge computer, you can have a smaller computer. So inside the app service plan, enter a name for your app service plan. I'm going to call it Super Simple. You need to be giving yours a super simple name, something that it's easy for you to remember, and something that you can have other people come and use too without feeling embarrassed. We all have strange screen names every now and then, but there you go. All right, pricing tier. I'm going to keep this same as usual, a little bit simple. They got a lot of crazy stuff in here, but just start this off. I usually, here's what I do. I start low and I go slow. I usually need to have SSL on, otherwise you're going to have an issue. So we're going to get the basics required to have an SSL, my own space. That's enough. This is about $30 United States a month. That's not that much money. And if you just started an Azure account, this is just should be enough to get you up and running before your credits run out. Okay, next, SQL database, configure required settings. If you've never started a database before, don't worry, it's easy. And I'm going to show you. So I'm going to create a brand new database. And I'm going to call it Super Simple. Now, for those of you who know nothing about a database, it's fine. Just understand that your database and the database server are two different things. Right now, I'm creating the database, and I will shortly create the server. All right, so I'm going to call this database Super Simple. And for the target server, I'm going to again call this super simple, and it might be taken. It's taken. So I'm going to call it something else. Simple DB server, and that's okay. It's not working. So I'm going to what's something easy to remember? Something that I can just type in and go to it. That's a little bit too simple. All right, I'm going to just use Coach.Fm. Coach.Fm. And here's my DB. And I'm going to give it a super simple login name. I just use team because if I want to delegate to somebody else and they don't have an SA, I could just use team. It works. No. Now, you should probably have a pretty secure password. I'm going to type in one of my interesting passwords. Let's see here. That's pretty complicated, and it didn't even type. Let me do it again. Yeah, something like this, you should probably make it fairly complex and secure. And if you make a mistake, it's easy to reset. Okay, I set my server up. Now for the pricing tier, I, just like in my previous video, I cheat just a little bit. I start high and then I go back low because when you're launching a brand new database, it's resource intensive. So I usually start high and then I bring it back down. Um, I'm going to use an S3 to start it. Here's S2 and here's S3, and then I'll bring it back down after everything's all launched up. I'm going to go ahead and apply that and then select. We should be all good to go. Application insights, we could talk about that another day. It's good stuff for another day. Now I'm going to go ahead and create this now. Anytime I have a new client, I just go straight to Azure because I could just um, new client, new resource group, name the resource group, the name of the client, or use their tax ID and just put all the stuff that they ask for right inside of it, or I just use it for myself. It's just fast. It's easy to organize. Now, when you're going to places like Big or GoDaddy and other lower level, it's moderately simple, but it's kind of hard to manage when you're managing other people's data. And we want to be ready to scale up and scale out, right? So for me, in my opinion, the easiest way to do this is to use Azure. Okay, AWS is great too. Google is also great, but I'm kind of partial to using Azure. It's just, I don't know, it's more intuitive. Maybe somebody from AWS might tweet some nasty insults to me, but hey, we all have our preferences. Now, this setup here is probably going to take about 5 to 10 minutes or so. So if this recording, if we take like 5 minutes, like, oh, let's just twiddle our thumbs for something, you can just like go on Facebook and say what's up, or I don't know, go get a coffee. I don't like chopping up my videos into smaller videos because what happens is people are like, did I just miss something? I want you guys to be able to have a real good solid feel of what it's like to go from start to finish on a whole session. So on a launch like this, I'm not going to split it up. We should have like a real scenario. And if you experience a launch that's slower than what's in my video, hey, just tag me and be like, hey, I'm experiencing something that's a little bit different. And then I can come in and point it out to you or help out. We'll figure it out. Okay, next step. Let's go back and see how it installed. It might fail. That happens. Don't go crazy. Don't lose your cool. When you're using someone else's stuff, they might have lots of traffic going on. Things happen. So if it fails, then just do it again. It's cool. No problem. I'm going to click in here and see if everything came up all right. Okay, so the resources inside this group, I have an SQL server. I have a database. I have an app service plan. And I have an app service. And the app service is the front side where your actual website's going to be. Now, I'm going to go to my SQL database. and I'm going to set the connection string, not the connection. I'm going to set the firewall. Again, it sounds complicated, but it's not. It's really, I'm on a cell phone connection, and if you don't know cell phone connection, it has a dynamic IP, and a dynamic IP changes. Now, what's that have to do with your server? You need to let your server know who's allowed to see and who's not allowed to see. So if you're like me and you're on a cell phone and you need to be able to get into your server, you're going to have to open up your server to let all IPs in so you won't block yourself. If you can have a fixed IP somehow, like if you can tie into your company's VPN, you might be working for a big company and doing something on the side or whatever. If you can get a static IP, great. It's more secure. It's easy to handle. I travel a lot, and because I travel a lot, it's just I know it's not the most secure way to do it, but I have it open so that um, I can deal with it easy. Side note for all you tech heads, yes, we probably should have multiple instances and have things linked up together. And yeah, that I do that same thing too. But we're not going to dive too deep into this because we want to keep it simple. All right, back to what we were doing. It's still provisioning. Let's go ahead and set the server firewall up. It gets unresponsive sometimes. That's normal. Rule name, all in. Start IP 0.0.0.0. End IP 255.255.255.255. Now, if you watched the previous video when I hooked up Coach.Fm's Micro Studio Coach, we also had a DB server. If you're following up from that video, use the same resource, use the same server, and then just launch another database within the same server. That way you don't have to set the firewall rules again. Now that should take like 5 minutes to propagate and configure. I have a super simple server name. Okay, so I have a success notification. Sometimes it fails. Yours may say fail, and if it did, just delete it and do it again. If you got a success like me, let's take it to the next step.